All right, let's just have a little fun and look at 1 Samuel chapter 15. And someone just said, what page? I'll tell you in a minute. Let me let you struggle for a moment. 1 Samuel chapter 15. Did you find it? The Hebrew Bible is ordered a little bit differently, isn't it? Right? So we're on page 470. All right, verse 11 of chapter 15, Samuel Aleph. Everybody at verse 11? All right, here we have the first word. We don't know, right? But is this a good word to look up? Necham T. Before we look it up, let's take a guess. What do you think it's from? Let's try to look it up without Ein Score. What do you think it's from? Huh? Did you say Chama? Mm-hmm. Man, she's good. That's my wife. I know. Yes. Women have an advantage here. I wouldn't say an unfair advantage. It's a good thing. Somebody needs an advantage. All right, so tell me about this word.
Well, it looks like it might be nifal.
Wow.
Imperfect.
Okay. Keep going.
That would be what, 2SS?
Well, are you sure?
No.
Put the noon on the front, make it a 1 CP.
The what on the end?
The noon on the front. Nickel.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Is it a? I'm trying to the Hema. There's like either wall, Hama, or it's like wrath, anger, poison, rage, something like that.
Well, maybe we're going in. Maybe we're not going quite in the right direction. Nifal perfect ones, yeah. Okay, it's a Nifal perfect 1CS. All right. But it isn't really Chama. Did anybody look up Chama? Anybody looking up anything? You look up Chama, right? So we do that, we find out that's not what it is. It is Nifal, but when we have the doubling of the noon there, one of them is going to end up dropping off, right? Well, I'm sorry, there isn't a Nifal in the beginning of a perfect, right? You just have that vowel pattern. All right?
So what do we have in the hate main?
So the vocabulary is actually Nun Chet Main, Nacham. Holiday page 234.
So it's not nifal?
It is Nifal. It is Nifal, but it's not from Chama, it's from Nacham. Okay, so Nacham, so it's a Nifal. Can you see that vowel pattern? The Hirik, Patak, Nifal. doesn't occur in the Cal.
So the new hasn't been added, it's part of.
Part of the word.
It's part of the word, that's right. And if we look at our grammar,
H2 something something.
I need to go back.
416.
I need a piece of candy. If you look at the if you
Oh, it's sugar free.
Want some yogurt?
it's sugar free.
Want some yogurt and raisins?
I don't know why.
A bite of that. Here, kill the tape for a second. A bite of that and I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Nacham means, here, according to Holiday, to regret, to be sorry. Even, I think BDB gives us the option of repent, to regret,
Change of heart.
have a change of heart. All right? Now, so this is perfect 1CS. So I regret that. Now, himalati is from the verb to make king. Remember that? Okay. So, now this is a hifil, to make king. Now, malak in the cal would be to rule, and the hifil is to make king, right? So this is a hifil, to make king, et Saul. Now, Saul is a proper name. What is it? Saul. What is the et? Definite direct object marker. So, I regret that I made Saul king, and then, idiomatically we have Lamelech to be king. So in English, I regret that I made Saul king. Right? All that wrapped up together. Does it interest you that it's God speaking here? Right? God says, I regret that I made Saul king. Huge issue there. Now we have God with regrets. At least according to Holiday. Right? It's also very interesting to know why God regrets making Saul king. Ki Shav, what do you think Shav is from?
Sit or turn.
Well, it's from Shuv.
That'd be return.
Turn. Okay. Cal perfect. Because he turned me acharai. The me is min, from achar, after me. Because he turned from after me. In English, you might say he turned away from following me. Right? And, now, va'et deber I, again, that's the direct object marker, isn't it? So let's bear that in mind. And then we have lo hechim. And he did not, now kum is to rise up, and the hifil cause to rise, or to lift up, right? He did not lift up what?
My word.
My word. So Saul turned from following after me, and he did not lift up my word. Now this is, yes?
Okay, and he did not lift. Saul turned from. And could it be because he did not lift up my word?
Yeah, it's because he turned from after me, and the because is still functioning, because he did not lift up my word. Now here, God is talking to Samuel, all right? So we need to get the context there. God is talking to Samuel. And then we saw the Atnak right there at the end of the line, right? Now, the next word, Vayachar, and it burned Lishmuel. Well, this is Samuel. And it burned for Samuel. English translation makes Samuel a subject, and that may well be what's happening here. Samuel burned. Or Samuel was distressed. Samuel was upset. Literally, and it burned for Samuel, and he cried out to Yahweh all the night. All right? Same chapter, last verse, 35. Does it give you heartburn for God to say, I regret, according to Holiday, or I'm sorry, I made Saul king?
Well, maybe.
It's not the only place, God was sorry, same word, that He created mankind in Genesis, right?
That brings up a lot of questions, that's for sure.
Verse 35. Literally, Samuel did not add to see Saul. Maybe what this is saying is Samuel did not make any effort or go out of his way to see Saul until the day of his death. Can you follow that? Because now, what stem do you think this next word is? Hitpael, that's right. So hit Baal, let's see what Aleph Beit Lamed looks like, shall we? Thanks for the bite, I'm functioning much better. It's pretty amazing.
Row or stand.
Aleph Beit Lamed.
Mourn?
Yeah, and in the Hitpael, you can see it means to observe mourning rites. So because because Samuel observed mourning rites toward Saul. In other words, he treated him as he was dead, as if he were dead, right? So Samuel treated Saul as if he were dead. And then, and Yahweh, here it is, Nifal again, right? And Yahweh was sorry that he made Saul king, and now we don't have the Lamelech thing here again, right? He was sorry that he made Saul king over Israel. So we have a challenge here, understanding what's going on. We have God regretting or being sorry or repenting, changing his mind that he made Saul king over Israel. But it gets even tougher. Because if you go back in between these two verses and look at verse 29, all right, verse 29. This is Samuel speaking now. And also, Netzach, it's an interesting word. It means the preeminent or forever one. New American Standard translates it glory, interestingly. But the forever one of Israel, reference to God, right? The preeminent one or forever one of Israel. Yeshaker. What stem is that? Can you recognize it? It's from Shakar. What's the stem? I don't mean the stem in terms of the vocabulary word. I mean the stem in terms of the cal. What word you got? Fourth word of the. Wait a minute.
In verse 29.
Verse 29. Fifth word of the verse. Huh? It's Pia. How do you know it's Pia?
Well, there's the dogish, and then there's the seray.
Okay, dogish in the middle root letter. The seray, but the diagnostic indicator is the patak under the first root letter. Patak into the first root letter, Dagish in the second letter, PL. PL imperfect. So, the preeminent one of Israel does not lie. Right? And he does not yinachem. Nifal again, because now we have the commas under the first root letter. Dagish in the first root letter for the assimilated nun. What does nacham mean?
Be sorry.
Be sorry. It's the same word, right? To be sorry, to
Have compassion.
to repent,
Suffer grief.
to suffer grief. Right? But now this says, the preeminent one of Israel does not lie, and he does not regret. Because he is not a man. And now we have the word repeated again, Nacham, but what form is it?
I think it's in the comments.
It's the same form.
Still a nifal, okay, but it's a nifal what? There's a lamed on it. Remember,
Infinitive.
Remember, a nifal infinitive construct has a hey on the front of it. Remember that?
Yeah.
So now we have a nifal infinitive construct plus lamed from Nacham. He is not a man to regret. Verse 11 says, God regretted, or however you want to translate that, God was sorry he made Saul king. Last verse repeats that. God was sorry he made Saul king. Now verse 29 says, the preeminent one of Israel does not lie, does not regret, same word, because he is not a man to regret. So now we have a problem of this chapter saying God regretted making Saul king, but now we have Samuel saying, and this is in the context of now Saul wants to repent and wants Samuel to go back on what he said because Samuel told him that kingdom's going to be ripped from you, right? And so now Saul doesn't like that. So now Samuel says to Saul, no, God's not a man that he should lie because he already said the kingdom's going to be ripped from you or change his mind. Problematic, isn't it?
Could be that he doesn't regret like man regrets.
Well, what do you mean?
Well, you see, because I'm just, it's a guess, but I'm not really reading it in there. And the preeminent one does not lie and does not regret because he is not a man to regret. He's not a man to regret. He's just saying that there's something about God that has a regret-like ability, but he doesn't regret the way that man regrets. Man lies and regrets. Then you need to look at other scripture to be consistent with God's character, his unchanging character, but yet it's telling us his regret. In other verses it says he regrets. Here it's specifically saying, and he does not regret like.
But it doesn't say. Well, it doesn't exactly say like a man. Now you could interpret it that way.
Well, okay, it does not.
He is not a man to regret. In other words, that's something that a man does, not God. Lie and regret. But earlier he just said, I regret. And then next verse says, he regretted.
Kind of like he doesn't. Man sometimes regrets because they make mistakes.
Was it a mistake for God to make Saul king?
No, but it was so painful for him.
Didn't turn out very good.
It's okay. He didn't create man. But
Does
his glory we shall have more.
Well, would you mind meditating on those verses over the week?
If I gave my son a bicycle, and he broke the rules, and he went somewhere on his bicycle where he wasn't supposed to go, and he fell off and he got hurt, I'd be sorry that he fell off and he got hurt, but I wouldn't regret or be wrong in giving him the bicycle in the first place.
That's a pretty good analogy. But then, I'm a dad, I don't feel sorry. The middle verse.
Sure you do. If your kid comes home with a gaping wound.
Well, I know you do, but this middle verse says, but I'm God and I don't feel sorry. Right?
Well, but about which part?
Hmm?
I mean, it would seem that it's two separate things.
Or read the context in your English Bible when you get home. Look at these verses in Hebrew. You can look at them, and you know that's the same word in Hebrew now, right? So you can read this in your English Bible to get the context. And see. It would be kind of interesting to solve this dilemma of God regretting and the double dilemma, which God regrets, and then Samuel the prophet says, well, God is God and he doesn't regret. So if we could solve that, that'd be doubly cool, right? But there's also something very important to be learned about God, I think, from these verses. So if you like, read that in your English Bible. Now that you know that that's all the same word in there, twice in verse 29 and once in each of 11 and 35. And, ask yourself the question, how do you solve those dilemmas, the textual, theological dilemmas? And then what does it teach us about God? Interesting. That's what we talked about in my home group last night, after we had sturgeon.
Did you catch it?
Yep, my son and I caught sturgeon Saturday beach. And,
Your boat or someone else?
no, my friend. And
You don't have a lot.
some, yeah. But anyway, yes, we're done.